Ahoy, ahoy. Welcome to Head Game, the science and psychology of sports. I'm Dr. Brett Levine, joined as always by Dr. Ben Rosenberg. We have two guests today. Our first guest is a regular on Head Games. He's a teacher, former college basketball player, children's author, and host of the 2% podcast, TJ Voigt. TJ, what's going on?
Not much, man. How are y'all?
So good.
It's always good to be here.
Yeah, good to see you again, man.
Great to have you. And we also have a very special guest with us. She's a WNBA player with the Minnesota Lynx. Her list of career highlights and awards is long, but most recently, and perhaps most impressively, she received the 2019 WNBA Rookie of the Year award. Napheesa Collier. Napheesa, welcome to Head Games.
Thanks for having me.
So first and foremost, thank you for coming and congratulations on Rookie of the Year. And I think the natural question is, how are you going to follow this up? Like sophomore season, what are your plans?
Well, I just finished my sophomore season, so we were in that bubble. So it was definitely not what I thought it was going to be like. So I guess for third year, just trying to keep building. Second year is kind of different because everyone knows what you want to do now. So they're taking all that away. So you really have to find different ways to score and things like that. So just trying to find my weaknesses and trying to, make them a little bit more stable before we get back to the league.
What are some of those things? Like, what are some of the weaknesses that you feel like you're going to try to build upon and kind of exploit maybe?
Yeah, definitely my guard game. I played post pretty much high school, college, and then I got to the league and they moved me to the 3 position, which is on the wing. So like ball handling stuff, being able to shoot a lot quicker than I normally do, things like that is what I had to work on even my rookie year because I didn't know I was going to come in and play the 3. Yeah, it's just, it's different being on the wing, not being able to, I like being, by the basket. So coming off ball screens, having to handle the ball and things like that, it was just a different position. So just trying to get more comfortable with that.
Given all that's been happening with COVID and you guys were in the bubble, how have you been training and preparing? What's that been looking like?
So I haven't seen the team since we left the bubble, but we have a group chat where we stay in contact. My fiance is a basketball trainer, so I have a built-in workout there. Yeah, we're lucky enough to have like a gym in a church down the road, so we can still work out there and stuff. So just trying to stay fit there. I'm going to France in February, so trying to get ready for that.
Nice. That's exciting.
So have they, I know you're getting ready for the season and everything. And as we were, researching and trying to find more about you, it was really hard for us to find out when the WNBA plans to start this season.
Yeah, same.
Told y'all anything?
I don't know. It's kind of dependent on how the men are doing, honestly. Same as last year, like their season is before ours, really goes all year round. But however theirs going is pretty much how we're going to base ours off of. So if they have fans by that time, if they're even still playing at that time, if they're still in mini bubbles, so if you see the NBA, it's probably what we're going to look like.
Wow. So, just real quick, what does that do for your preparation? I know there's kind of an arc of in the off season of you go hard and you kind of tailor all, get ready for a training camp. What does that do for your preparation?
Well, for this year, a lot of people are overseas. And like I said, I'm going to France soon. So you have to get ready for that. They are playing. So that helps you stay mentally engaged. But last year around, March when NCAA got canceled, we're like, okay, I'm sure our season will too. And then it did, and we didn't know when our start time was. That was probably the hardest time because, maybe the month or 3 weeks before training camp is when you go your hardest because you're getting ready. You don't train like that the whole time. So it's kind of hard to gauge what you're supposed to be doing to stay mentally locked in. We didn't even know if we were going to have a season at all. So that was probably the hardest time last year.
Wow. So going back to college, right? Playing at UCONN, there's stories about Geno and his mental test. So I'm going to put it like that, his mental test.
Yeah.
So talk to me about what it was like playing at UCONN.
Yeah, it was awesome. My freshman year was definitely the hardest. It's just such a shock. You go in knowing it's going to be hard, obviously, high expectations. And physically, you are ready for that. You're going to die and all that stuff, but you don't know how mentally challenging it's going to be. And the reason that honestly his program has been so successful is because he raises you to the level that they expect. And it's hard if you're not used to that, being mentally locked in for 2 hours, 3 hours a day, every day in practice while you're also physically exhausted. So I think, that's why everyone's freshman year is just really hard. And mine, just like everyone else's, was super rough. But I think, going to that school is the reason that I did so well in the league is because I had been training that way for 4 years, basically like a professional athlete is how he trains the college players. So transitioning to the league, I think was just a lot easier. And I think it's why, players from UConn have done so well in the league as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned something about that. I think it was your freshman year of college that it didn't go as planned. And you said, I got to flip the switch. and you were able to see success afterwards. And I think, again, and maybe this is attributed to your college career, you said in the preseason, WNBA preseason, you had to do it again. You had to you had to flip the switch. Do you accredit that to Geno's system, or is that something that that's Napheesa, that's what she does?
I feel like it's probably a little bit of both. I think I knew myself and I knew what his program was, what I had to go through my freshman year and how it took a toll on my confidence and how I was playing and things like that. I knew that I never wanted to feel that way again when I stepped out on the court, and I felt myself regressing to that once in preseason. So I just kind of try to learn from my past experience and not let it take me 6 months to kind of get a hold on it again. And so that's what I kind of meant by flipping the switch, is I recognized that I was going back to what I had gone through before. So it's just a lot easier for me to pull myself out of it.
Do you have any specific techniques or tactics you use to help yourself kind of get over those mental barriers that you confronted?
Well, it's definitely a lot easier said than done, but like everything. But what I struggle with is overthinking. When I get into a slump, I'm thinking, how can I get out of it? And that's when I 100% every single time get worse. So I have to force myself to let it go, which is really hard when you're struggling and you want to find a way out of it. So you're trying to think of solutions. But for me personally, it just makes it worse because I'm overthinking everything that I do. And so I just have to force myself to kind of play on instinct for a little bit and just go out there. And it's kind of muscle memory, honestly, at that point. You've been playing for so many years, you know what you're doing. So I just don't think.
That's awesome. So we also read that you were real close to Kobe and his daughter. Gigi wanted to be a UConn player when she made it to that level. So how do you think Kobe's legacy will impact or affect the future of the WNBA? Because he was a huge proponent of the women's game, right? He's one of the biggest stars basketball I've ever seen. So talk about what you think his legacy, how you think that will impact the future of the WNBA.
Well, I think we were really lucky to see before Kobe died that he wasn't quiet about his support of the league. It wasn't something he was quietly brewing where he wanted to help behind the scenes. He was really public about it. And I think that really helps because for a lot of people, if Kobe Bryant thinks it's okay, then, it must be okay.
Right.
And the fact that he's such a legend, such an icon, someone who changed the men's game so much, the fact that he's openly rooting for the women's game, I think really helped elevate it and it helped other people think it was okay. As much as we wish that wasn't the case and they could just think that on their own, it kind of allowed people to be like, okay, we can watch this and think it's cool too. So yeah, I think, a lot of the NBA players have kind of gotten behind that too, supporting the league openly and, rooting for us and, whatever on social media and things like that. So I think he just tried to and did pave the way for kind of getting us more exposure. And so
I guess we're an LA based podcast. So yeah, we were hit pretty hard with and I think this whole last year has just been crazy. I'm forgetting what year it is. Clearly, I can't believe it's going to be 2021.
I know.
So back to what went on last year in terms of COVID and the bubble this year, and what that was like playing in the bubble. This is a psychology podcast, and my area of study is team chemistry. And I'm really, really curious about how team chemistry was affected in the bubble. Do you think it was better? Do you think it was worse? What were the dynamics like last year? And then also looking ahead, if there's going to be a bubble again this upcoming season.
Yeah, so I think that definitely varies team by team, who you have on your team and whether you originally kind of liked them or not and clicked with them. We were really lucky. I really loved my team this year. Just even right off the bat, we would have Zoom meetings and things before the season started, and we had a lot of new people, but you could kind of see that our personalities matched up really well. So it really helped us to be in the bubble because how the league is different than college is college, you're together all the time. You have team activities, you room together, school, blah, blah, blah. With the league, I'm I see you at practice and then I don't see you again until the next day of practice. So being in the bubble forced us into that kind of college environment again, which I really liked. I liked being able to go next door and see my teammates and kind of knock on their door whenever I wanted to. But it kind of felt like it was several years of team bonding, pushed together, because again, we don't get that same team bonding that you do in college. So it's sped up. And so we were together all the time. We ate together, we roomed together. We had what we called a Lynx lounge where we would play games in there and things. So I think it really helped us. And I think that's why we went a lot farther than people thought we might have, because our team chemistry was so good. So we were really playing for each other instead of just, thinking of it as a job.
Right. Yeah. I wonder, I'm going to say something entirely anecdotal here, but I wonder if, the bubble is certainly, from Napheesa's point of view, kind of turns things in either direction. If you have the groundwork for connectivity, it's just going to be amplified. You're just going to be closer because, you have relationships already. But if things aren't so hot heading into the bubble, then you're going to head in the other direction. I wonder if we heard a little bit about this from research we were doing earlier in the year about the NBA bubble. And I think things were going on there. So it's interesting that you say that you mentioned, like, going into it, there was groundwork already. There were relationships, players and amongst other players that sort of grew within the bubble.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. I don't have any like specific examples of other teams who struggled with it, but I can just imagine, like, with all our personalities, if it was already tension and then you're thrown together nonstop for 3 months, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard a story about a raccoon running around the campus too or something.
Oh my gosh. He was everywhere. He was literally everywhere.
Did you guys befriend him?
Put our trash anywhere. What'd you say?
Did you befriend him? Like, did he become part of the team chemistry?
I took a couple of videos of him. He would like kind of be there and he'd run away, and then I'd see him the next day and he'd be there and he'd run away. So I don't know. I don't even know if it was the same guy, but they were everywhere.
What about the way in which the chemistry that you're talking about building off the court translates to your on-court play? So you mentioned you thought it helped you guys go further than you were expected to go. Do you have any like examples or kind of how does that play out exactly on the court?
So I think it's like I said, we were kind of playing for each other instead of thinking it as a job. And by that, I mean, like, inevitably you're going to come across hard situations, like losing games. People are going to mess up in games and it's really frustrating. And if you don't really like the person, then sometimes people's personalities, they don't get along. So you yell at them or you lash out at them and things like that. And I didn't see that on our team at all. And it's honestly really rare because you have 144 of the best women and that's not a lot of people. So it's all really high talent. So everyone thinks they're the best, obviously.
Right.
So sometimes it's hard to mesh with people, but, we were really respectful the whole time. I saw the study, psychology people, that, the teams that high-fived the most were the most successful. We were high-fiving all over the place. So I think, like, the way you communicate with people just really goes a long way, especially in, those high-pressure situations. And we just did a really great job with that the whole year. And necessarily that didn't happen last year as much. So I could just see a huge difference with how that, like, our team morale and how we played. And I don't know, I just felt it.
Right. So one thing, being a former athlete, but not at the highest level like you are, right? There's a culture and kind of chemistry, a symbiotic relationship, right? And with I know the WNBA, sometimes the rosters can turn over pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So do you feel like having that culture in place helps with the chemistry, specifically in a situation like you were thrown in last year? Or is it something that is just year by year?
So I guess it depends on how many new people you have, because usually the core of the team stays the same. And then, there's like different people that kind of move around, or you might get like a big one. I don't know. But we did have a lot of new people again last year. My first year, like, we had 3 returning players. I was one of the new players. So I can't imagine how frustrating it was for those 3 people. But you have so many new people on the team, and we had that again this year. And like you said, it's kind of like a revolving door of people until you get your roster locked in during the year. But our coaches do a really good job of picking people who are going to fit with us, not just players who are good. So they try to find personalities that are going to further the goal that we want, because they want a certain culture on our team as well. So like I said, it was a little bit different last year, but this year, even the new people we brought in, their personalities just matched up with everyone so well that it was really easy for them to kind of come in, and everyone's really helpful, obviously, and trying to get them in. I don't know, there's not like clicks or anything like that. I don't know how to like explain it really. It's just, it was a good environment.
Yeah, it's a feeling. I think we've heard that from a lot of athletes that we've talked to. Brett and I are working on a book about the science and psychology of team chemistry, and we've talked to various athletes at different levels, and that's what a lot of folks say. Like, it's a feeling, right? Like, everybody can describe what it feels like to be on a team with good chemistry and what it feels like to be on a team with bad chemistry. And it's hard to quantify sometimes, but you know it when you feel it. And I think that's kind of
definitely
what underscores what you're describing. So to switch gears a little bit, the other big thing I think that's been going on this year, aside from COVID, is maybe what some people have called another pandemic around racial equality and kind of this reckoning that's been happening across the country, right? And the WNBA has played a major leadership in pushing this stuff out to the forefront, which is awesome. How can you talk a little bit about that, and just kind of how it was to hold both playing in this bubble, and also being out at the forefront of this kind of racial justice and racial equality movement?
Yeah, so we knew going into the bubble that wanted to be a huge focus and a focal point for us. That was kind of some people's condition to playing, even like, we have to, this is going on, like, we have to use our platforms to push our agenda, which is like getting more exposure for it and stopping it and helping however we could. So I honestly felt really lucky with the people I'm surrounded with. The women are so empowering and they're so powerful and confident, and being around them, just feeling that energy was awesome. And the bubble honestly helped us communicate, because usually you have 2 team reps on each team and they kind of talk. There's like a council, but us all being together, we were able to come into rooms and everyone's voice was heard. And like when we chose to set out those games, we came to that decision together. So it was awesome that, whatever we wanted to do, we wanted to make sure that we were a united front. And then also I felt really lucky because the league, like not everyone has a job that would back them so fully on something like this. So the fact that they did that and they supported us and they made sure that we felt heard and wanted to help us whichever way that they could, I thought was awesome. So I thought we did everything that we could and we did what we set out to do. And it's something that definitely we don't want to just stop with this year, but to continue to do every season.
Right. So what is it about the WNBA that makes you guys such leaders when it comes to, because oftentimes, in pro sports, you got to play the middle ground sometimes with the politics, and the brands and the loyalties and things of that nature, because like you said, it is a job and you have to keep food on the table. So what is it about the WNBA and its players that gives you guys the freedom and the strength and the tenacity to lead in the way that you do?
I think it was kind of that feeling, because even a couple of years ago, it's like, just dribble a ball. I think they said that to LeBron. This isn't what you're paid to do or whatever. And I think you're just tired of it, because when people say that, it feels like they don't see you as a person, because this is our job, is playing basketball, but that's not who we are. We have feelings and we've gone through these different things and we have these experiences and these thoughts. And we knew that we have a big platform both together and individually. So I think we just kind of thought, it was enough. And we realized the power that we have and the opportunity that we had with this platform, and we just kind of took advantage of it.
Where do you feel like it goes from here? What are the next kind of steps or initiatives to continue to push this obviously very worthwhile agenda that the WNBA has been leading?
So actually we have a council for that. I'm not on it, but like this year, our main focus was getting people out to vote. So a lot of our stuff was focused around that. When I know they have meetings coming up with things we could focus on like that, like points we can do instead of like a general, just, get it out there, just like points where we can actually focus on it and make a change. So I don't know what the next one is going to be, but like I said, we definitely want to continue it on and make it a focal point.
That's awesome. So next year, like you said, you've already touched on, you're not sure when the date is, you're not sure if there's going to be a bubble situation or what. So with that being said, talk to me about France. This your first year there? Have you been over there before? What other countries have you played in? What's the difference between playing over there and the WNBA? What does that look like?
So this is my first year going to France. Last year was my first year being allowed to play overseas, and I was in China for 10 days before the pandemic hit over there.
Right there.
And so I came home, so I didn't even get to play a game. But China is definitely a culture shock. It's a lot different. Just everything you can think of is a lot different. I'm sure France won't be such a shock. I've been to Europe before, so I'm really excited. One of my teammates will be Maisha Hines-Allen. She's on Washington. I'll be with her, and I'm really excited. I think it's going to be really fun.
Cool. What's the quality of the competition like in France? Like if you were to stack it up next to the WNBA, like how do you expect the league to be?
It's not the same competition as the WNBA, just like the NBA. That's the highest, and then you have overseas ones. This is only my second year playing overseas, so I don't know what it's going to look like entirely, but there's a lot of WNBA players playing in Europe, and we kind of play all the same teams, so it'll definitely be good competition.
Cool.
You mentioned fitness being the issue last year because it was pretty demanding. Do you think that preparing for France now is going to help you for the season, or how do you think that's going to work with, the regular season?
I think it will. And one thing that I regretted last year, I didn't really have a choice, but not being able to play, because I've never gone so long between playing before, because with college season, you can have like a month or two off and then you're back playing, and then same with high school and all that stuff. And so I stopped from October and I didn't play again until the next July or whenever we started. And it was just way too long. So I really knew that I wanted to go overseas this year, because I felt like it took me a long time to kind of get back into the groove of things once the season started. And you guys know I don't like that feeling. So I'm trying to, do everything I can to be confident once I step on the court and kind of get that rust off before the season starts.
So just talking about seasons real quick, do you, with the NBA starting tonight, do you watch the NBA at all? all? Do you have a team that you follow growing up or favorite players you like to follow?
Yeah, I don't. Alex, like I said, he's my fiance. He catches like every game. I definitely don't watch it as much as he does. And honestly, growing up, I didn't watch sports a lot. I didn't really start watching sports a lot until I got to like college. I played so many sports growing up. I just kind of felt like it was my life. And when I got home, I didn't really want to watch it on TV too. So my teammates and my friends always make fun of me because I didn't even really watch basketball. I know it's embarrassing. But so yeah, I definitely watch it a lot more now. I think it really just helps with your IQ with the game too, just seeing what other people are doing. So hopefully you don't have to go through it personally, those mistakes, whatever it may be, you can just watch them and try to learn. So I definitely wish I would have started watching earlier, but whatever, I'm doing it now.
Gotcha.
Let's pick a team. We should pick a team for, how about the Warriors?
That's a good one. Yeah.
The Warriors, they're a pretty good team. Yeah.
They're Bay Area guys. You gotta forgive them.
Yeah.
I know. I said we're a LA local.
Yeah. Not the Lakers though?
No, Brett and I are both from the Bay Area, so we're Warriors.
Okay.
TJ lives in Houston, but he hates the Rockets. So
Correct.
I don't even know.
This is correct.
What's your team, TJ?
You know what? I stopped rooting for teams when Allen Houston retired, which is weird. That's a weird thing, right? But he was one of my favorite players. I just liked him.
He was awesome.
I thought I could model my game after him because I wasn't Jordan, but I could shoot. I could come off screen. I liked that he was different because he didn't talk trash, and I talked a lot of trash. But I wasn't a Knicks fan, right? Yeah. I would just root for players, and I started rooting for teams really when Jordan retired. I was an avid Bulls fan, obviously, because everybody was back then. But then I just started watching players. That teams I didn't like. Like I didn't like the Lakers ever. I respect them. But yeah, I never really followed teams, and that being an athlete is hard to get into the fan side of things because you play so much. Like Napheesa was saying, you play so much. Yeah. I don't even understand fandom, honestly. People that get like really sad or upset when their team loses. I'm like, we'll
got next one in a couple days.
Huh?
Yeah, I was gonna say we got next game in a couple days. Sure.
Right.
Yeah, we'll be fine. So yeah. I know Napheesa is probably irritating watching basketball with a basketball fiance because he's like, you see that? I know my wife hates watching basketball with me because it's not.
It's funny. True.
So we're gonna try. I want to try something new. Or we're gonna play a game. It's just one word to describe the following things. So I'm just gonna say something, and we're psychologists, so we're not going to assess you. Just kidding. Maybe we will. But
I want to hear the assessment.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something, and I just want the first word, one word that comes to mind when I say this thing. Just tell me what you're thinking of.
Okay.
You're at no pressure. Are you ready to go?
No pressure. Okay.
All right. St. Louis.
The Arch.
Geno Auriemma.
UCONN. That one's boring, but.
Wedding planning during COVID.
Stressful.
UConn hoops.
Fun.
Kobe and Gigi.
Sad.
Bagel bites.
Delicious.
What a great segment. Thank you, buddy. This was amazing.
The bagel bites one was pretty awesome. I mean,
threw me off a little bit.
Something random. But we should also mention that you have a podcast as well. Talk to us a little bit about what you're doing and what that podcast is like.
It's called The Tea with A and Fee. It's with Asia Wilson, who's on Vegas, and I. And we really just did it because we just felt like it would be cool to kind of see the league and what we go through our eyes, like younger people in the league. So yeah, we did in the bubble and it was super fun for us. So hopefully we have a season 2. But yeah, I had a good time.
No, I listened to a few episodes and you ladies are awesome. It was really enjoyable. I listened to the ones that you had. You had Katie, Dan, Steph. But I think the big talk was the banana bread.
Yeah, because she's a crazy person. Don't even get me started.
No, yeah. That was a serious conversation. I kind of got into it a little bit, like, what? But yeah.
He still hasn't tried it.
She's crazy.
Banana bread's incredible. How could you not try banana bread?
She's
not even that she doesn't like it. She's never tried it, and she refuses to try it.
That's just, I mean, maybe it's a good thing because then if you're ever sharing banana bread, you don't have to actually share. You just get to eat it all yourself.
That's true.
Yeah, you don't have to share with anybody. That's like my wife. She doesn't eat any fish. I get to eat all the fish.
Really? I mean, Can we even work with people who are so unreasonable, though? I don't know.
Yeah, that's questionable judgment, at least.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I mean, you chose her as your podcast partner, so.
I did not know that she was crazy when I chose to do that. I was tricked.
Duped.
I was bamboozled.
I really think you've tested a lot, I think, in your first 2 years as a professional, in terms of rookie year, and now this last year with COVID, social justice issues. You really rose to the occasion. It's really been a pleasure talking with you. I think, I think we all certainly see a future for you, both as a professional, but also as a leader. So thank you so much for joining us today. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me. I had a good time.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
You've given us permission to mention that you're on Instagram. You're at Napheesa24.
Yep.
So if you want to bug her, she's like, yeah, followers, no big deal. Let's
I'll take them. Come on over.
Yeah. TJ's on Twitter at TJ Void, and we're on Twitter at HeadGamePsych. I'm on Twitter at Dr. Brett Levine, and you can find that guy on Twitter at BD Rosenberg, PhD. Please rate and subscribe to the show where applicable, and thanks as always to our editing team, including our producer who comes up with crazy games for us to play at the end of the show. And thanks as always for listening.